A warm welcome to the History Show here on Uxbridge FM, and we're very pleased to welcome back again Ken Pearce, local historian, with today a story about the 1908 Olympic Games.
Hello everybody. First of all, let me give you some background information. The Olympic Games were revived in 1896, largely to the enthusiasm of a French aristocrat called Baron Pierre de Coubertin. And of course, they took place in Athens. Only a few countries took part, but the event was deemed a success, and a committee was set up which decided to hold the Games now every 4 years. In 1900, they were held in Paris. In 1904, in St. Louis, USA. In 1908, the Games were to be held in Italy. But in 1906, Mount Vesuvius erupted, destroying a greater part of Naples, and the Italians said that they could not now afford to host the event. With less than 2 years to go, London agreed to take over the fourth modern Olympiad. A large exhibition site at Shepherd's Bush was available, so the government agreed to finance the building of a brand new stadium there. It was hastily planned and erected. It held 68,000 people, and since a great deal of concrete was used in this construction, it was named the White City, and it was ready on time. Inside the stadium, the running track was surrounded by a sloping cycle track, and inside, on the Royal Box side, a swimming pool and diving board were added too. So this multi-purpose stadium could now be used for athletics, cycling, archery, hockey, lacrosse, football, and a tug-of-war. Sailing, shooting, and tennis were held elsewhere. 22 countries competed. There were just over 2,000 competitors, 44 of whom were women. There was no Olympic village. Competitors received a booklet giving details of hotels and bed and breakfasts in the London area, and they were left to find their own accommodation. But local interest was aroused when it was learned that the marathon runners from the USA had booked into the Chequers Hotel in Uxbridge High Street. This was one of the town's old coaching inns and stood roughly where the Marks and Spencer store is today. So these visitors were soon seen in the area practicing for the event. The marathon was fixed for July the 24th and was due to start in the grounds of Windsor Castle. The route was via Slough, Iverheath, Uxbridge, Ickenham, Ruislip, Eastcote, Harrow, Pinner, Wembley, Willesden, and so to the White City. And at that time, it was the biggest event ever to have taken place in the history of sport. The following information was sent in advance to all competitors. OXO will supply the following free of charge to all runners: a flask containing OXO for immediate use, hot or cold, OXO and soda, rice pudding, raisins, bananas, soda, and milk. Eau de cologne and sponges will also be available. I do wonder if that's the first example of sponsorship in sport. The arrangements were that every competitor would be accompanied by 2 cyclists to keep an eye on them, and a bus would follow to pick up those who had to retire from the race. I quote now from our local newspaper on August the 1st, 1908. Never had the town and district of Uxbridge been so crowded as on Friday afternoon, and seldom had people been so excited. They flocked in by tram, train, car and bicycle, and children had been given a holiday from school. Flags and bunting had been put up in Windsor Street and the High Street, and Uxbridge Common proved a popular place to sit and watch the race. The runners covered the 9 miles to Uxbridge well within the hour, and 2 Britishers, Lord and Price, entered the High Street at 3:22 p.m. and they were loudly cheered as they dashed round into the High Street, and there was an official stopping place where they could undergo a brief cooling process and then go on their way. Doubtless, Oxo was available. Quickly following the 2 Britishers was Hefferon of South Africa, who looked very fit and was running well. And close on his heels was Pietri Durando of Italy, who, as he passed the station, took off his handkerchief hat and dipped it in the water, replacing it on his head as he ran on. At this stage, John Hayes of the USA was 12th. By 3:40, all the competitors had passed through the town, and they were followed by a large Great Western Railway motor bus containing 3 competitors who were already done up, and with a wild horde of cyclists bringing up the rear. At Uxbridge Common, hundreds of spectators viewed the race and loudly cheered the athletes as they passed. Of the leaders, the Englishman, Price, appeared to be running the best, but Lord was going somewhat heavily. In fact, here, many of the runners were the same, more or less. Right from the Common to Ruislip, the course was lined with people, and at Eastcote all the villagers turned out to give the runners a cheer. At Ruislip, the hamlet was in a state of great excitement. From a car, a voice shouted, "They're keeping good time, and England are leading." And soon a loud roar from the top of the lane announced the coming of the first runner. It was Price, who became swinging round the corner at so confident a pace that one could hardly realize the number of miles he had already covered. Second was the South African, and third, the Englishman, Lord, now terribly distressed. A short, wiry figure now moved down the lane. It was the Italian, Durando, and with more than half the distance yet to cover, this dark, determined little man with the red bloomers sped quietly on his way, the most self-possessed and confident of the whole bunch. He was running well within himself and looked as cool as a cucumber, with his features relaxed. Let me just finish now the story of the race. The 2 Englishmen soon dropped out, and by the time the leaders got to Wormwood Scrubs, it was the little Italian, Durando, who had taken the lead, but, I quote, "His eyes were staring fixedly and vacantly on the ground. He looked done, terribly done." The American, John Hayes, was now second. Eventually, Durando entered the stadium in something of a daze. He turned right when he should have turned left, and had to be directed to complete the final lap. He collapsed 3 times and was helped to his feet, and eventually he staggered over the finishing line. But, alas, he had been helped, and he was therefore disqualified. So Hayes, the American, was declared the winner. Durando was actually carried off on a stretcher and spent 2 days in hospital recovering, and a rumour actually spread that he had died. Well, that was not so. But there was, of course, a great wave of sympathy for the little Italian. He had entered the stadium well in front of the others and was denied victory through the actions of well-meaning helpers. He had not asked to be assisted. So the outcome was that a few days later, he returned to the stadium and was presented with a large silver cup by Queen Alexandra. The White City Stadium is no more, but nearby there is now a road called Dorando Close. And the gold medal for the marathon therefore went to John Hayes, who had stayed in the Chequers Hotel here in Uxbridge. On another occasion, I hope to talk about Uxbridge's connection with the 1948 Olympic Games in London.
Yes, that'll be interesting. That's great, Ken. People seem to love these stories, so do keep them coming. Got lots of nice comments on them.
Oh, well, that's right. I'm so pleased to have the opportunity. I hope, I'm not overdoing it.
No, not at all.